Chapter 1: The Potential Barrier. The towering Gothic quad of the prestigious university stood as a monument to history and ambition, where classic stone arches were boldly juxtaposed with the sleek glass facades of modern physics labs. Sunlight glinted off the polished windows, casting long, cold shadows across the bustling courtyard below. Standing rigidly against a massive stone pillar, Lise Maki seemed as unyielding as the granite behind her. At 6'2", her presence was impossible to ignore. Her long blue hair fell in sharp, precise lines around cold, striking features, while her knuckles turned pale against the leather binding of the heavy classical mechanics textbooks she clutched against her chest. Betas and subordinate alphas shifted their paths as they passed, darting intimidated glances toward her before quickening their pace. Lise paid them no mind. Her piercing gaze remained fixed on a group of students laughing near the fountain, endlessly debating corporate law and political strategies. Listening to their chatter, a bitter spark ignited in her chest, pulling her down into the dark, familiar spiral of family trauma. She could still hear her father's harsh, booming voice echoing in her mind, accusing her of being a failure. She was meant to be his crowning achievement, the brilliant alpha heir destined to take the reins of the vast Maki corporate dynasty. But nature had delivered a bitter blow. Her recessive status had marked her as flawed in her father's eyes, a defect in his grand lineage. And when she stubbornly refused to smile, network, and play his pathetic political games, his disappointment turned into absolute disdain. She loathed him. She hated the suffocating empire he had built, and the suffocating future he had mapped out for her. Choosing physics was her ultimate act of rebellion, a deliberate rejection of his high society boardrooms in favor of absolute, indisputable truth. Science did not care about hierarchy, bloodlines, or corporate power, even if it meant total isolation. She would forge her own path on her own terms. Taking a slow, deliberate breath, Lise focused on maintaining total control. She suppressed her inner nature with absolute discipline, locking away the instinctual dominance of her secondary gender. She forced her scent into a chilly, completely neutral aura, resembling the sharp, metallic faintness of ozone before a storm. She refused to let anyone read her, and above all, she refused to draw the lingering eyes of a world she utterly despised. Lise pushed herself away from the stone pillar, stepping into the flow of students hurrying toward the next lecture block. Her long, deliberate strides cut through the crowd, her attention momentarily fixated on checking the room assignment printed on her syllabus. She rounded the corner near the entrance of the chemistry building, an area constantly crowded with bustling undergraduate students and heavy lab equipment. Without warning, a fast-moving figure darted out from behind a pair of heavy wooden double doors. The collision was sharp and sudden. Lisa's sheer size and rigid posture barely wavered, acting like a brick wall against the impact. The smaller figure, however, bounced backward with a dramatic clash, sending expensive glass speakers, pipettes, and neatly organized lecture notes cascading across the hard stone pavers. Lise stumbled back half a step, her cold gaze dropping down toward the chaos spread across the floor. Standing at a mere 5'2", Dmitri Fairchild looked almost tiny beneath the shadow of the towering building. But every line of his slender body radiated pure, razor-sharp irritation. He dropped to his knees for only a fraction of a second, desperately trying to rescue his handwritten chemical formulas before a passing beta nearly stepped on them. A student from the slums who had clawed his way into this prestigious academy on pure chemistry genius. Dmitri was accustomed to being looked down upon as a dominant Omega. Society expected him to lower his eyes, apologize, and cower before an alpha's shadow. Dmitri did no such thing. He snapped up a stack of paper, stood up abruptly, and glared directly into Lise's cold blue eyes with a pair of piercing gray eyes that burned like hot iron. Are you completely blind? Or does your massive body just lack any basic spatial awareness? Dmitri spat, his voice dripping with venomous amusement. Or maybe you think those giant physics books give you the right to act like an unguided asteroid in a crowded hallway. Lise froze, caught entirely off guard by the sheer audacity of the small student before her, before she could form a cold reprimand. A sudden change filled the air between them. Caught in the sudden panic and frustration of the impact, Dmitri's body experienced a sudden spike of defensive adrenaline. Against his will, his self-control faltered for a fraction of a second, leaking a heavy, uncontained wave of omega pheromones. The scent burst into the space between them, sharp, sweet, and intensely vibrant, carrying the bright brightness of sun-ripened citrus. The overwhelming scent washed directly over Lise. Her recessive alpha instincts, usually suppressed behind layers of icy discipline, flared up violently in response. Her spine stiffened instantly, her shoulders broadening as her inner alpha bristled defensively against the unexpected olfactory command. Her chest rose and fell rapidly, her eyes widening as she fought the sudden, primal urge to assert dominance. She caught herself in time, gritting her teeth and forcing her composure back into place. But the damage was done. The static air between them felt suddenly charged, pregnant with a tense, dangerous heat. Lise stepped around the scattered papers, retreating toward the shade of a sprawling oak tree near the quad. Her jaw was clenched tight, but Dmitri was right on her heels. Refusing to let the towering alpha walk away uncontested, he stepped around her, cutting off her path as she reached a weathered wooden bench. If you had any understanding of mass and velocity, Lise said, her voice dropping into a chilly, measured drone, you would know that changing direction mid-stride while carrying fragile equipment requires calculating momentum. You practically threw yourself into my center of gravity. Arrogant little Omega. Dmitri let out a sharp, incredulous laugh, crossing his arms over his chest. Oh, fascinating, he sneered, his gray eyes flashing with sharp amusement. The grand alpha thinks in rigid, linear mechanics. You think every collision is just a collision of rigid bodies. But real life isn't a frictionless plane. Sweetie, you completely ignored the chemical dynamics of the space. You saw a high-energy environment near a lab entrance and marched right through it without adjusting your activation energy. Lise's eyes narrowed, her posture growing even stiffer. You're confusing basic physics with sloppy spatial management. Reaction kinetics don't excuse running into people. And your rigid frame doesn't make you an immovable object. Dmitri shot back, stepping closer despite the sheer difference in their height. You sit there looking like a frozen statue, utterly terrified that a single unexpected variable might throw off your pristine, tragic equilibrium. A sudden image flashed through Lise's mind, a brief memory of her best friend, Joy Mason. If Joy had been standing here right now, she would have already escalated this into a full-scale shoutfest, probably laughing her head off while causing absolute chaos. Joy's loud, destructive energy was a stark contrast to this small, razor-sharp chemistry student. But the sheer friction of the moment felt strangely familiar. Meanwhile, beneath his fierce posture, Dmitri cursed his own biology. His pulse was hammering against his ribs, the lingering scent of Lise's chilly ozone aura pressing against his senses like a heavy winter air. It infuriated him that her sheer physical presence forced his body to react, even while his mind effortlessly dismantled her cold defense. They stood there beneath the rustling leaves. Two high-achieving scholarship students trapped in the same grueling interdisciplinary curriculum, firing intellectual insults back and forth like physical strikes, neither willing to give an inch. The low hum of chatter faded into silence as students filed into the vast, tiered layout of Physics Lecture Hall 101. High curved ceilings swallowed the faint echoing sound of shuffling papers and sliding chairs. Lise walked down the center aisle, her posture stiff and unyielding. She took her customary place in the very front row, placing her heavy textbooks with deliberate precision onto the wooden desk. She smoothed her long blue hair over her shoulder, fixing her cold gaze strictly on the deep black surface of the front chalkboard. A few rows back, Dmitri slipped quietly into a seat. His gray eyes locked onto the back of Lise's head with sharp annoyance, slipping his pen between his fingers. He made a mocking hand gesture toward her rigid back, mimicking her perfectly straight, frozen spine for the amusement of no one but himself. Professor Edward Meitner stepped up to the wooden podium at the center of the hall. A dominant alpha with a commanding presence and silver-streaked hair, Meitner held dual appointments in both physics and chemistry. Known across campus for his demanding, uncompromising standard, he gripped the edges of the podium, his dark eyes sweeping across the rows of quiet students before he turned and picked up a piece of white chalk. "Welcome," Meitner began, his deep voice echoing clearly through the tiered space. "Today we introduce the foundational dynamic that governs every physical and chemical shift in the universe. The transition from potential to action." He turned to the board, the chalk squeaking loudly as he wrote out two classic formulas. "Potential energy," he said, tapping the first equation. "Mass times gravity times height. Potential energy is stored capacity. It is a system holding its breath, loaded with invisible tension and positional stress. It exists entirely in waiting, bounded by strict limits and stored pressure." Lise sat rigidly, staring at the formula on the board. The words felt strangely heavy, striking a quiet, uncomfortable chord deep within her. She was the textbook definition of stored pressure, carrying the enormous weight of family expectations, bottled-up resentment, and an alpha strength she kept constantly caged behind layers of icy restraint. Meitner then dragged the chalk across to the second formula. "Kinetic energy," he continued. "1/2 mass times velocity squared. Kinetic energy is motion made real. It is reactive, sudden, and dynamic. But a system cannot simply jump from absolute rest into full motion without help. It requires crossing a specific threshold, an activation energy, to break the barrier." Behind her, Dmitri leaned back in his seat, resting his chin on his palm. His sharp, energetic mind was constantly in motion, bouncing from one reaction to the next like an unpredictable chemical charge. He was pure kinetic drive, refusing to remain static, moving relentlessly forward despite every obstacle society threw in his path. Meitner set the chalk down with a sharp tap, looking out over the quiet hall. "The barrier keeps things stable," he concluded. "But once that threshold is crossed, the transformation is absolute and irreversible." The final chime of the lecture hall clock resonated through the vast room, signaling the end of the period. Around them, the sound of zipping backpacks, rustling papers, and scraping wooden chairs filled the air as students began gathering their belongings to leave. Lise remained in the front row, deliberately taking her time to pack her textbooks into her bag. She kept her eyes focused down on her wooden desk, waiting for the crowd to thin out so she could avoid walking with the main rush. From 2 rows back, Dmitri slung his bag over one shoulder and made his way down the stairs, instead of walking straight out toward the exit. His path angled sharp and deliberate toward the front row. As he passed by Lise's desk, he didn't give her a wide berth. He brushed his shoulder against hers. A sudden, physical touch that sent a sharp shock through her rigid frame. Leaning down just inches from her ear, he let out a low, provocative whisper. "Try not to freeze into a solid block of ice before our next lab. Heavy potential," he murmured, his voice dripping with playful defiance. The sheer proximity crossed every invisible barrier Lise had built. In an instant, their hard-won self-control shattered. A violent, uncontrolled release of mutual pheromones erupted into the narrow space between them. Dmitri's sweet, sun-ripened citrus scent burst into the air like crushed orange blossoms, clashing head-on with the heavy, warm undertones of Lise's cedarwood alpha aura. The two scents collided, swirling together in a tense, intoxicating atmosphere that made the air feel suddenly thick and difficult to breathe. Lise's breath hitched sharply in her throat. Her hand flows over her open bay, her chest heaving as the deep, woodsy scent of her own suppressed alpha nature leaked into the room against her will. Dmitri's sharp expression broke. A violent wave of heat rushed to his face, and his sharp ears instantly flashed a bright, burning red, surprised by the intense physical reaction racking his own body. He spun around on his heel. Without looking back, he hurried out through the heavy wooden exit doors, his boots clicking rapidly against the stone floor. Lise sat frozen in her seat, staring after his retreating figure into the empty doorway, her heart hammering wildly against her ribs in utter bewilderment. In the next chapter, Lise and Dmitri are forced into terrifyingly close proximity as they claim adjacent lab benches, launching an accidental turf war over glassware while a certain oblivious beta watches from the sidelines. Don't miss Chapter 2, The First Collision.